If you don't know me, I'm Campson the Untamed Oracle. The reason why I call myself Untamed is because I'm someone who grew up in the underworld. I went through every form of abuse that you can think of. And I also was able to deconstruct religion successfully, with no contact with my family so that I could focus on healing, which was a really, really difficult thing to do. I don't know if anybody else has ever did that, but it's hard, especially when you are putting content out like this publicly. So my entire life has been shadow work. And I have a Scorpio moon, but I also have Venus in Libra, and I have a Libra sun, and I'm Virgo rising. So my purpose is exactly what I'm doing, which is teaching alchemy. And I have access to the Akashic records. So a lot of this information, I'm getting it from the Akashic records, okay? Let me tell you what shadow work really is, because I feel like a lot of what's out there is not fucking shadow work. If it's not uncomfortable, it's not fucking shadow work. Shadow work is the capacity for you to sit with the things that you do not like about yourself, or the things that other people don't like about you, and to be able to sit with it until you are neutral around it. If you are emotionally charged when somebody triggers you, it's because you need to do shadow work. If you feel like constructive criticism is always somebody coming for you and targeting you and attacking you and trying to hurt you, is because the remedy is going to be shadow work. If you feel afraid of what people are going to think about you, you have this innate fear. And I mean, this is a common thing. We just really don't talk about it, but it is what it is. If you're afraid of what people will think about you, like when I first came out saying that, okay, yeah, I'm considered a witch. That shit was scary because I live in a Bible Belt, okay? And everybody in my life is practicing from some form of monotheistic religion. It was nobody else walking this path. This is what I mean about shadow work. Shadow work is the reason why I can get on here and talk about these things and still go around people who are practicing what they believe in. I don't believe in judging people for what they practice, you know? So that's what I mean about shadow work. The things that I did not like about myself, the things that you don't like about you, the things that got your ass whooped when you was a kid, the reasons that people broke up with you, the reasons that you got a divorce, the reasons that maybe it's difficult for you to hold on to your identity, you lose yourself in relationships. All of these things can be solved with shadow work. But here's the thing. I got some notes, and I'm gonna pull my notes up right quick, and because I realized today in doing shadow work, a lot of women need to do shadow work around their womb space, because a lot of women have been abused, taken advantage of, and also slept with men who did not fucking deserve them. And so that's not something that goes away because you walk away from that person. That's something that's going to require a womb detox, which is like this deep shadow work. And to even be able to talk about these things and accept that you have been that woman who tolerated bullshit and tolerated abuse and tried to save people and repair people. And I'm a parentified daughter, so I was always trying to save people, always trying to help people, always wanted to be seen as kind and good. And it was fucking ridiculous how the programming had me feeling like I had to always be there for everybody else. And if I did anything for me, God forbid, I focused on myself, it was selfishness, right? I was called a selfish bitch like over and over and over and over again. So in this world in 3D Matrix, when you start to focus on yourself, you collapse the entities that feed off of your low vibrations. Absolutely. And as you collapse the field around you that's been distorted by all of these different beliefs and these systems that were put in place to socially engineer us to be food for energetic parasites. Okay? This is the way that this works. When you become food for energetic parasites, they manipulate your mind constantly. And they have you feeling like everything that's happening in your life is because you deserve terrible things to happen to you. But that's not true. So they manipulate your mind. They use unhealed trauma from the inner child to keep you triggered. So when people in your life trigger you, this is why I tell people, like, people be so quick to leave relationships, but I'm like, did the relationship ever leave you? Because if it didn't, your auric field and the entities that's attached to the ways that you think, they're going to magnetize somebody else into your life with the same trauma wounds. And you will end up in a trauma bond over and over again and call it a relationship. So this is the truth about shadow work that most people don't talk about. And a lot of people are still trying to live in this world and hide from themselves. And you cannot do that and actually love yourself. What was in the e-files? That was just a reflection of the self-hatred that a lot of us were raised in, experience, and now behave in those same ways toward ourselves. We abuse our own selves. And we have to be honest about the darkness that you see in the world, because it is an emanation of the darkness that is within us. We are co-creators of reality. And everybody is talking about these files, except for the thing that it really revealed was how disgusting and nasty we have been toward our own selves. Okay? So let me just clear that up and say that first of all. So, but shadow work is not doing candle magic. It's not journaling prompts about your inner child. That's the version that people sell you, because the real version of shadow work will fucking terrify you. Okay? The real version will make you feel exposed, naked, like somebody just pulled back the curtain on the part of you that you've been hiding from your own self. And that feeling is what you're supposed to feel when you do shadow work. Most people will never walk this path. They'll spend their whole lives running from the one thing that could actually set them free from the shit that keeps them stuck and creates suffering and creates poverty, scarcity, and relationships that are unfulfilling. I have lived in the underworld, not metaphorically. I've survived what can be described on all levels as all forms of abuse. Homelessness while I was 8 and 9 months pregnant. No one in my family biologically would take me in. I wasn't a terrible person. I wasn't a thief. I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't a drug addict. It was for none of those reasons. I was not bringing any type of threat to anybody, but nobody would take me in. I was homeless. And as pretty as I am, pretty privilege with homelessness is a bad mixture, because I did not have boundaries. I didn't know who I was. And I agreed to come to this planet in a dysfunctional family. So I didn't have a support system. I didn't have no protection. And when you in the hood in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the toughest places to live, and you look like me, and you're 8 months pregnant and you're homeless, predators come out the woodworks. And so this was a really dangerous situation for me to be in. And I went through that by myself. I found a homeless shelter that the church that I went to paid tithes to, because I've been working a job since I was 11 years old. Okay? Paid tithes for years. When I ended up pregnant and homeless, the church told me that they could not help me, that I had sex before I got married, that I was living in sin. But they told me that they would drop me off in a homeless shelter, and they did. And they were smoking crack in the homeless shelter and selling drugs rat, roach infested. I had sickle cell anemia, so my immune system was low. If that's not underworld energy, then I don't even know what is. So I'm just giving y'all a snapshot because I don't want to make this about me, but I want to make it real clear because I haven't in a long time about why did I feel like I am the untamed oracle. I know that that's who I am because of the things that I survived. I have survived things that most people have never seen in this lifetime. So as all of this was going on, I knew at some point I was going to have to go no contact with my family. And it's not for a lack of love, but the shadow was I didn't love myself. Nobody taught me how. I was trained and programmed to be there for other people at the expense of myself. Now, I have read thousands of Akashic records for my clients all over the world. I've seen what lives in the shadows that most people can't even imagine. People have told me things that the people closest to them don't know. Wives have told me things that their husbands don't know, and vice versa. Okay, so my energy is the type of energy where people, when they connect with my frequency, nothing can hide, nothing can be hidden anymore. I'm a shadow whisperer, right? And so, what oftentimes happens to Sibyls, I'm of the lineage of Sibyls. And the Sibyls were the prophetess, whether they were in Delphi, ancient Kemet, no matter where they were. And so the way the prison planet was set up with the patriarchy was for the Sibyls to inherit their next incarnation in a life. The plan was for my life to be so fucking bad that I would never do what I'm doing right now, that I would not survive. The two near-death experiences that I had was supposed to take me out. I would have poltergeists and all types of spirits trying to possess me all throughout my childhood because I've always walked in between realms. My closet wasn't a regular closet. At night, it turned into a portal, and I could see entities coming in and out of this closet. So this is how I grew up with this gift, but I didn't have the support system to learn how to use it. Okay. So the hatred that we see in the world now, the triggers that explode when somebody criticizes you, the relationships that keep falling into the same painful pattern, that's your unclaimed shadow self. It's being projected outside of you. It's being weaponized and it's kept alive when you refuse to look at it and deal with it. Now, this is what nobody tell you about your patterns. You think you want to change other people for you to feel safe. You think that you're frustrated by the same fights, the same collapses, the same shit that exhausts you. But actually, the reason that you stay stuck in these patterns is because there's a hidden benefit. It's something you're getting from these toxic patterns. I'm going to let that one sit in the air for a minute because it took shadow work for me to see when I fawn, when I go into freeze, fight, or flight, the benefit that I get from that, and that is toxic, it's not healthy. The benefit that I get from that is that I create this form of safety that's not really safety. It's just what I learned as a kid. So it's a subconscious program. And so when I realized that it was benefiting me from using the shadow work ritual that I've been sharing for years and it's on my Patreon, my shadow told me the reason you stay stuck in these patterns is because it's benefiting you in a way that you haven't figured out. Okay. So that one thing right there is worth its weight in gold. Now, until you name it, you will continue to choose it unconsciously. What's the benefit of being a victim? For those of us who get people that blame us for things that we did not do, it's something that's happening in your energy field that allows you to end up in a scenario of being a victim. And sometimes it's because you don't take responsibility over your boundaries. You don't enforce your boundaries. And when you don't do that, you will end up in a reenactment where you are the victim over and over again. What's the hidden benefit of being a martyr? This is especially women who feel like you got to be nice and I got to always be this and be that and always be giving and always be turned on and always be saving people, always be there for people, always be nice. That shit is exhausting because we're not always feeling that way. So, what is the hidden benefit of being a martyr? You get to feel morally superior because in childhood, you didn't want to be the villain. So, you unconsciously choose to be the martyr so that you're not the villain, but it's still toxic. It's just a more passive, shadow toxic pattern. What's the benefit of being the strong one? Why do we have to be strong all the time? You don't have to be vulnerable with nobody. You don't have to ask for help. You don't have to cry when you really need something. You don't have to make your needs known. Those things might be uncomfortable for you. You don't trust people. You don't trust that anybody will be there for you. You don't trust that the universe will present to you a solution to whatever it is that you're going through. You don't trust that anything cares about taking that burden off your back. So you try to be the strong one. That's an avoidance of being vulnerable. What's the benefit of being a caretaker? Especially, it's so much content now about women caretaking men, and I totally get that because men have been babyfied, right? And you can't do that's the worst thing that you can do for a man is to not let him evolve, to not let him grow up. Sometimes you have to step back and say, no, let life teach you. Let me let life show you. And let me step back and give you the opportunity to become the man that you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to caretake a man. You're not supposed to mother a man. You're not supposed to be soothing his nervous system. He should not be coming to you when he want to have sex because he's stressed out and then he dump all of that damn stress in your body, in your womb space. And that shit goes up your spine and sits inside your brain for 50 plus years because they done found this shit in autopsies on women. Everything that I speak is facts. If it's new to you, you can go and look it up after you hear this and be like, oh, okay. Yeah, I see what she mean. All right. So the hidden benefit of being a caretaker is that you don't have to ever face your own needs. And you don't ever have to hold anybody accountable for not having reciprocity with what you give. You see that? I had all of these patterns. And it was creating a life that was miserable. And when I figured out that there was a hidden benefit that I was getting from these patterns, it was so much easier for me to not repeat those things anymore. So your darkness is not your enemy. This is why I studied the left hand path after coming out of monotheistic religion. It's actually an ally. It might be misguided, but it's an ally nonetheless. And it's been protecting you from something that you decided a long time ago was too dangerous for you to feel and experience. The frustration that you feel, that's the part of you that's ready to stop paying the price of this fake pseudo protection that your ego has created. Shadow work is not about killing your darkness. It's about making peace with what it was trying to protect you from so that you can finally put it down. Now, let me define this clearly because the internet has made this word really mean fucking nothing. Okay? Shadow work is the practice of bringing the unconscious patterns into conscious awareness so they stop running your life without your permission. So for a lot of us, we feel like we need to somebody sending evil eye energy, somebody to put roots on us, somebody, jealous, and all of those things could actually have happened at some point. But you have to realize that you have more power over you than anything or anyone else. Have you brought these things into your conscious awareness? If you get triggered by anything, it's touching an unhealed wound, and that unhealed wound is your shadow self letting you know. Your shadows live in your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind only controls 10% of your reality. 90% of your reality is being created by the subconscious mind's programming, the beliefs, the things that you say to yourself, the doubts, the things that the entities that attach to us from our traumas say to us. These are the parts of you that were rejected, shamed, punished, or ignored. So you buried this part of you to survive. For a lot of women, that is her sensuality and her sexuality, especially if you ever been taken advantage of. And you will bury that part of you to survive. This is why I created a pleasure practice meditation. It is a form of pussy worship, and it's on my channel. I literally just put it on my channel for my members only. It's only for my baddies out there, okay? But this is why I created that, because there's so much shame around a woman's sensuality, especially for those of us who went through religion. It was so much guilt around things that are basic human needs. A woman's sensuality is her superpower. I literally was thinking the other day about this, and I was like, honestly, I've been able to manifest a lot of things through my seductiveness. And my seductiveness comes through like an innocence, but it's not. It just seems that way. But I can project myself to appear any way that I want people to perceive me. And I own that. I don't hide it. So nobody have to call me out and say, I feel like you're projecting or you pretending to be. No, no. I'm a chameleon. I'm a shapeshifter energetically. And I can bend myself to alchemize my experience to be whatever it is that I need it to be. That's a superpower. That's seduction. Robert Greene has a book where he talks all about seduction. It's not bad. There is no such thing as good and bad. It's either what works and what does not, what's beneficial and what isn't. So every time you get triggered by criticism, that's your shadow. Every time you explode at somebody for something small, that's your shadow. Every time you can't understand why you keep choosing the same wrong person, that's your shadow. Every time your body hurts and the doctors cannot find a reason, that's your shadow. And it's screaming. So autoimmune disease has increased by over 58% the last time that I checked, specifically in women, specifically in indigenous women. And you have to wonder, what is it that we all have in common, the reason why this is happening to us? The body is literally turning on itself. There are many ways that you can access this shadow, but it acts like a puppet master, right? So you can use meditation. You can see, you see it. You can use meditation when done correctly, not the performative kind. Okay. For some of us, that's a moving meditation. This is why I teach somatic exercises, because when I'm moving my body, it's easier for me to drop into full awareness of that moment. Learning your shadow contracts that's written in your natal chart. I created an 8-point decoder. It's in the ebooks, and it's also a separate thing. And I'm not going to even tell you how much it is. You have to go and see for yourself, because their price is going to change really soon. But I created that because people ask me, I want to open my Akashic records. And I'm like, well, have you looked at these 8 points in your soul contract? And they're like, what 8 points? So I went ahead and created that because I did so many readings with people and would give them this information. And I was like, it's best for me to make this where you can access it. Only the people who are serious about this. Like if you came here to play, you're not going to want to do any of this. But if you're serious about your journey, then these are ways that you can open your Akashic records. So your shadow contracts are specifically in 8 main points that I found in my own natal chart that align and with other clients. Another thing that you could do is to stare at yourself in the mirror while you repeat the thing that you don't like about yourself over and over again until the emotional charge decreases. So for me, I didn't like that I was codependent. I didn't like that I didn't like for people to be upset with me and it would actually destabilize my mood. I wanted to not give a fuck that if people was mad at me, especially if I hadn't really did anything wrong and maybe they're going through their own trauma reenactments. I would take on the responsibility of making another grown person upset. It makes no sense because at the end of the day, it don't matter what we do to each other. We're responsible for the way that we react emotionally. No other adult is responsible for that. But I was raised in a household where I was made to feel responsible for things that went wrong. So those shadow patterns continue when I became an adult. So I would stand in the mirror and say that, like, you be codependent as fuck. You be codependent as fuck. You do. You be codependent as fuck until it got neutral. There was no emotional charge. So that way I wasn't triggered by it anymore. This is why anybody that know me personally would tell you she is not an easy person to piss off. It's not because I can't get angry. I have mastery over my emotions. So nobody can make me do anything. If I get angry, it's because I'm allowing myself to be angry. Because anger is a sign of self-respect. And if you disrespect me, it's my responsibility to let you know how you disrespected me. But I couldn't do that before I started doing shadow work. Another thing that you could do is take all your clothes off and look at the parts of your body that maybe you feel like it's too big or too small or too stretched out or you want to change or you got cellulite or stretch marks, whatever it is, until you don't feel emotional charge around that body part not being the way that you want it to be anymore. These are really simple things that y'all can do, and I'm giving y'all this like for free. Because if we don't heal our shadows within ourselves, the shit that we see happening outside in the world is going to keep happening. Another way is dream work and somatic practices that bypass the thinking mind. You got to get in the body. If you live in your head, and most of us do, trauma just have that way of making you feel safe inside your mind, then you need to be able to get in your body. Because when you're in your head, guess what? Your auric field, your body, all your chakras are wide open. And this is why we be tired. Because to live in your head takes a lot of energy. It's like a computer and it's constantly processing data and it hasn't been defragged. It hasn't been charged. It hasn't taken a break. What happens? It's going to eventually just give out. And this is why a lot of us have brain fog, can't think, can't figure out what to do, can't turn the mind off at nighttime. This shit is destroying us. And I'm somebody who has had insomnia most of my life because most of the terrible things that happened to me after midnight. So I don't sleep well at night. I sleep better in the daytime, but unfortunately the world not set up for me to sleep in the daytime. I have to get things done, right? I'm pretty sure that that's relatable to some of y'all. Now, this is the other thing. Shadow work requires spiritual hygiene and protection. And if you do not do that part, you are actually going to have a really tough time doing this. You do not go into the underworld unprepared. Shadow work is intentionally going into the underworld. It's intentionally getting to know your demons. So demons are the shadow aspects of you because we all have it. All of us have that dark potential inside of us. I mean, if you don't think that you do, you definitely watching the wrong video. Okay. But if you are noticing, yes, I do have these parts of me. Okay. So we could say that that's what we've been calling demons, right? These are things that create negative things in our life. When you start to work with them, to see them and learn the reason that they're there. Maybe you are someone that is very possessive when you're in a relationship and you don't want your partner with other people. If you're possessive like that, you can look at that as a demon. But when you do the shadow work around that and you're not emotionally charged by it and you're not triggered, if your partner be like, you possessive, and you'd be like, I ain't possessive. Getting defensive and taking shit personal is a person who has not done enough shadow work. So if that's you, once you neutralize yourself around the fact that you are possessive, guess what? That demon no longer ruins your life. That demons become an ally to you. This is when it becomes a daemon. Daemon. This means that it is an ally that you know how to use in a way that's not self-destructive. So it becomes a part of you that was meant to be a genius. Bobby Hemmett talked about this. He was one of the first people, especially in the indigenous community, that I heard talk about this. Because religion did a number on us. What religion did to us was it gave us a devil to blame everything on that we did not want to own. Okay, everything we did not want to own in ourselves was blamed on a devil. Every consequence of that we did not want to accept was placed on a scapegoat known as the son Jesus, who was sacrificed for the shit that we did not own about our own selves. And then it taught us to completely disengage and disown anything that was bad or sinful, and to blame that on your flesh. It taught us that your heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. Do y'all hear how dark this shit is? And we wonder why the e-files was so dark. Listen to this language. Your heart is deceitfully wicked. How the hell you gonna build a healthy relationship and you think that your heart is wicked? You see what I'm saying? Even religion was putting it out there. It was telling you that you have this potential inside of you to be this dark ass, wicked ass being. But you won't know that part of yourself until you become God. Because who can know that part but God? Is talking about your consciousness, your awareness, your ability to see yourself as you really are. There are two ways to study the Bible: esoterically or exoterically. And most people study it exoterically, and it creates confusion. So we had a scapegoat, we had a devil in the flesh. That means we didn't even have any reason to own our own shit. So this is why you do not go into the underworld unprepared. Now, personally, for me, I prefer ancestor veneration. I prefer to invoke my higher, our divine self. I work with the dark mothers who rule over the shadow realms, like Lilith, Kali, Oya, Sekhmet. These are not this is not something that I worship outside of me. These are archetypal energies that I study and find places where their mythology is similar to my life. Okay, so just a really quick example: Lilith, she is known for not wanting to have missionary sex and wanting to have sovereignty and wanting to have choice over what she did with her body. So for somebody like me who had been sexually abused, she was the remedy for sexual abuse. I took her on as a dark mother to help reparent myself, to help shift my mindset, because it don't matter how many books I read or how many videos I listened to, I did not know how to stand in my own sovereignty over my own body. So I learned autonomy through working with Lilith. Okay, so these are archetypal forces that you can use to learn about yourself, and they will protect you as you are navigating the shadow realm. Now, that's a video for another time, and I've talked about this for many years. If y'all new to me, y'all just have to go and look at all my other content. But I've walked these paths, okay? And when they walk them with me, they know the terrain really well. I have had astral entities try to attack me, and they have protected me many times. I would have to do a whole separate live stream just to talk about my lucid dreams with them. Okay, so this is not like just a made up fantasy story. These forces really exist no different than a tornado. That's like a Oya energy, right? A volcano, right? That's a goddess energy as well. So look at Mother Nature and all the different aspects of Mother Nature as these feminine forces of energy that are divine protectors. Okay. And they will hold your hand if you ask them to. But you definitely have to come with a sensitive heart and with a childlike mindset. Otherwise, if you approach this work thinking that you know everything, it's not going to benefit you. Now, I need to say something that might lose some followers, but I do not care. Okay. Because I'm not here for the people who not ready to do the work. Because if that happens, good. That means the right people who was aligned with this work are the ones that got the work. But religion teaching us to disown our shadow is the reason that the e-files even exist in the first place. Whoa. Okay, I know. Like, that's why that exists. This is why so much perversion exists in the world, because of the disconnection between us and our own sexual energy, between the us and the abuse that we had to experience as children, and we couldn't talk about it. We couldn't work through it. This is what allows that energy of perversion to persist. So they call everything the devil, the flesh, sin. It means that humans have no control over themselves, right? You as a human have no control over yourself, and you're just sinful and you're just a terrible being. And as long as we think that about ourselves, we're going to create trauma. Okay? Anger is evil, sexuality is shameful. Is don't be vain, don't care about the way that you look. That doesn't matter, but it might matter to you. And it's nothing bad, shame, or sinful about that. If you ask too many questions or if you doubt what you're being taught, you're considered to be a heretic. So that means we're not allowed to ask questions, which means we're not allowed to learn. So we bury those parts of us. We split ourselves in half. We become good on the surface while your shadow is the one that attacks people when you get triggered. And this is the number one reason why I tell my single clients, stay the fuck away from nice guys. If that man is showing up in ways that are nice and you know he being nice, because who he really is only comes out when he's angry. A man who is not integrated with his shadow self, when he gets angry, will show you his teeth. You want to know who he is when he mad, not who he is when everything is going how he wanted to be going. Men who are nice, they will do nice things for you until they feel like you're not giving them what they want in return. And that's when the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde shit come out. I ain't saying women can't do this too, but I'm specifically talking about men right now because the patriarchy really did a number on them too. Okay. It told women that our power was dangerous, that seduction is sinful, and our rage is not polite or ladylike. Our needs were too much, and our bodies were temptations to be managed. Now, I grew up in the era where you couldn't even wear your legs out. You had to have pantyhose on. It would be 90 degrees outside, and we would have pantyhose on. It was crazy, and it was almost as if when I went through puberty, I had to hide my body because the sicko men around me had no self-control over themselves, and so all of their responsibility was projected onto us as girls going through puberty, where we had to try to manage other men's desires towards us, and we were fucking kids, and we wonder why the world is so perverse. That's what we went through. That's the weight that we had to carry. And then soon as our cycle start, we got to go to a doctor and get metal shoved in us. It called a pap smear. It's something you have to get when your period starts. A lot of us started our periods at a young age. All of these things are forms of abuse disguised in society to keep us traumatized. So we learn to hate ourselves. We learn to shrink. We learn to perform, to be good girls, while our womb was filled with the words of the things that we could never speak. Shadow work is the undoing of that programming. The version of you that religion taught you to reject, the version the patriarchy taught you to hide, it's not evil, it's not sinful, and it's not too much. For my women out there, it's time for you to get in touch with these parts of yourself, because our womb makes our auric field operate differently. And so we magnetize, we draw things to us. We want to be in a space with ourselves where what we draw to us is not just based on an acute aesthetic. I went through that phase too. It's so much deeper than being pretty on the outside, but what's happening in the inside. Because now that the veil is down, we don't see just the pretty anymore. We see the energy. We see what's on the inside. And whatever's on the inside of you is what you're going to broadcast. Broadcast, casting, witchcraft. Everything is witchcraft. Everything is witchcraft. Indoctrination in school is a form of witchcraft. It was sorcery and programming over our minds. It activated our left hemisphere, taught us to ignore the right hemisphere, the feminine part of the brain. Everything is witchcraft. Easter, we watched witchcraft happen all day long. Whether you was hiding eggs in hunting form that came out of a rabbit and rabbit don't lay eggs, whether you were drinking blood of a man who was crucified as his dad watched for people who wasn't even worthy of his blood, eating his body. Like, monotheistic religion took pagan practices and repackaged it, right? We just watched all of that. The insanity of these things is going to keep our planet in a low vibrational state, and that is not going to allow us to step into our power and be able to change the things that are happening in the world. So let me tell you something that will change how you see every argument that you have ever had. When you get triggered by criticism, it's not because the criticism is always true. It's because it hits something inside of you that you already believe about yourself, but you don't want to accept it. If somebody call you lazy and you're not, you laugh. It doesn't land. It just bounce off you when you have done the shadow work around it. And I struggle with this because I go into freeze mode. My body cannot move. My body is too tired to do anything, but my mind is too wired for me to actually rest. So I'm stuck in this liminal space of seeing all the shit that need to be done, things that I want to do, not having enough energy to do it. And people would think that I was lazy. And I'm like, it's not laziness. I'm fatigued. My soul is exhausted. I'm carrying energy that nobody else can see that I'm carrying. Is heavy. I'm a fucking oracle. My crown chakra is wide open. I have access to everybody's energy field. Every secret that every person has ever had that they don't want nobody to know, I look at them one time and I see it. That can get heavy, right? But my spiritual gifts were operating in the unseen realm, so people did not know the amount of weight that I was carrying, so they would translate it to me being lazy, and that used to trigger me, and it would piss me off, and I'd be like, I'm not lazy. So if that triggers you, shadow work is the cure for that. All right. Shadow work is the way that you become unbothered by other people's opinions of you, not by building a thicker skin. You do not have to, I'm an empath. I'm sweet. The people that I'm loyal to will tell you, like, I really like this version of me. I'm very caring. I don't have thick skin. I don't. I'm a hypersensitive person. I'm a Hoyoka empath, right? I'm here to do alchemy around some really dark shit. So I always have access to the darkness. But by integrating, I don't have to be bothered by people and their judgment of me. When you own your own darkness, nobody can use that shit against you. Am I lazy sometimes? Maybe, yeah. But it's not a moral failure for you too. It might be just a signal that you're burnt out. So try to say out loud to yourself, whatever it is, feel the charge emotionally until it drops. This is how you take your power back. This is how you become unbothered. This is how you become unfuckwittable. Now I'm gonna give you a little relationship advice. I'm gonna spend about 10 to 15 more minutes with y'all and I'm gonna get off of here. Okay. The rest of this will be on YouTube. You cannot have a healthy relationship with anyone until you have an honest relationship with your shadow self. Any relationship that you want to improve, future, past, or present, begins with you having an honest relationship with your shadow self. Because whatever you refuse to see in yourself, you will project onto your partner. So a prospect partner will become a project, and you will project, listen to the etymology and the wordplay, onto them just to help you see it in yourself. If you cannot own your anger, you'll see them as angry and it will really annoy you. And I've been there. If you cannot own your neediness, you will feel like they are too needy and too clingy. If you cannot own your fear, you will see them as being too controlling. And you'll spend years trying to fix them when the only person who needs it is looking back at you in the mirror. Shadow work is the answer to being able to be confident because you own your dark side. It's not in spite of your dark side, it's because of your dark side. Remember, I said it's an ally, it's a genius, it's the genie in the bottle. Confidence isn't believing that you have no flaws. Confidence is knowing your flaws and knowing that they don't make you any less worthy. Okay. So, something simple for me, because of all of my scars and stuff that I have, all of the surgeries and shit that I've been through, I used to hide those. When I became serious about shadow work, I became confident. And so now, like, my scars, like, I don't really even see them. And I definitely don't care about nobody else to see them. And I have had people say to me, "You're so pretty. Why are you so scarred up?" Like, it lowers my beauty because I have scars. And it don't bother me though. All right. So I'm gonna say something that might make you uncomfortable. But that's exactly what the fuck I was here to do today. All right. The hatred that's being manifested in this world right now, the violence, the wrongs, I'm saying it backwards for a reason, the division, the cruelty, it is unclaimed shadows that's being projected outward because a lot of us are in toxic relationships with these parts of ourselves. People who cannot face their own darkness will always find somebody else to carry it. If any men watch this, I just need you to know the sexiest thing in the world to an awakened woman is your ability to own your own darkness and not make her carry it and not make her do the emotional weight around it. That's the new sexy. That will forever be a turn on. That will forever be attractive. And it is something that we do not see too often. That's what make a man stand out. Not no jewelry, not no Rolex, not your cars, not none of that shit. Because we can do all those things ourselves, right? So the world has changed. All right. Now, the things that we see happening with children, I had a really disturbing dream. I'm not going to talk about it right now. I'm going to wait till I feel like it's time for me to talk about this dream in detail. But I just want you to know that children are being targeted on an etheric, astral, spiritual level. And children are really going through hell right now. They're going through a lot. And they are walking shadows. Like when a baby is born, it's so integrated with its shadow self that it don't care that your titties is sore and swollen and hurting. If the baby need to eat, the baby need to eat, and the baby is go cry and do everything it need to do and kick and scream until you pay attention to the baby. The baby ain't worried about, oh, but she been in labor all day, or oh, but she's sore. That's shadow integration. We came here integrated with our shadow self, but we was programmed out of it. It's not evil. The baby knows what it needs to survive. So imagine if we looked at babies as evil because they hungry. You see the mind, this is energetic fuckery. That's why my book that I wrote before the ebook that I'm talking about now is called Ending Energetic Fuckery. That's energetic fuckery. That stuff, it messes us up on a deep level. Okay, so a child don't come into this world hating. A child don't come into this world racist. And they don't come into this world ashamed of their body or their needs or hiding their emotions. We teach them that. So I want, for those of us who are parents, pay more attention to, if you are a parent and you are not doing shadow work, congratulations, you have become the trauma sustainer. You're not breaking cycles until you do shadow work. I feel like shadow work should be recommended for anybody that become a parent. The world would change really quickly if we do this. And as a parent, it was my responsibility to deal with my trauma so that I was not re-traumatizing my children. Because guess what? Children inherit the trauma and the wounds that you do not heal. So they're dealing with their shit, your grandparents' shit, your great grandparents' shit, and so forth. And from a lot of research that I've done, this can go back anywhere from 7 to 14 generations of epigenetics, where the environment and the emotional stimulus from the environment imprinted itself onto children. Let me verify this. Hold on. Okay. We teach them to stop crying. They tell you to put your baby in another bed, and if your baby cry, do not pick them up. Have anybody heard that? Why in the hell would you do that to a child? Now this child is learning what abandonment feels like. And it's just a baby. It can't even talk. It can't do nothing for itself. And I'm supposed to let my baby lay there and cry itself to sleep. A lot of our abandonment wounds started here. Now, I told y'all it's some wickedness behind a lot of systems that's been put in place. I never did that to my children. And if anybody in my family told me that I was spoiling them when I picked them up when they cry, I ain't listen to none of that shit. I'm not hearing that. This human being came here is my responsibility. They cannot talk. They cannot say what's going on with them. They don't have any of the tools that I have. They cannot walk. And I'm supposed to let them lay there and cry. Because if you let me lay here and cry and you see me in pain, hurt, hungry, in need of something, which did happen, I'm going to look at you different. And I'm going to feel abandoned. I'm going to feel rejected. I'm going to feel unworthy and unloved. So you see how deep this goes into the matrix planning? We taught them to not be sensitive. Boys not supposed to be emotional. Boys not supposed to act like that. And girls, you need to make sure that you keep your legs closed and don't wear this and don't walk like that and don't do this and don't bend over. Kids are to be seen and not heard. Those things traumatize us deeply. So we take their shadow, their rage, their fear, their desire, and we shame it out of them. And then we wonder why they grow up into adults who don't know how to regulate their emotions, to adults who explode, who shut down, and who hurt other people, even if it's unintentional. Shadow work is the answer to the hatred that we see in this world. Because when you own your shadow, you don't need to project it onto nobody else. I don't need nobody to tell me about myself. I don't need nobody to pull me aside and tell me that I said something hurtful to them because I'm aware, right? So self-awareness is the first step into being able to be a better version of yourself. When you make peace with your darkness, you don't need enemies anymore. People that fuck with you will stop being in your life. They are not going to want to be around you. And when you do shadow work, your third eye opens to the point where you can see people's energy that they're operating in, and it will intimidate people who are operating in an energy that is insidious and hurtful towards you. You won't have to keep arguing with people and trying to create a peaceful life. Those people just will not want to be around you because the energy that you broadcast is the energy of somebody who is integrated with their dark side. So you can't turn me into a narcissistic supply. You cannot use me and throw me away. You cannot discard me. You cannot trick me into giving you something that I do not have. You cannot trick me into doing more for you than for myself. I'm going to take care of myself first, always. And I'm not ashamed of that, not afraid of that, and don't care what nobody feel about that. And if you think that I'm a selfish bitch because of that, that's okay. That's your right to think whatever you want to think about me. This is the mindset the shadow work allows you to have. Revolutionary change doesn't come from people who are being good and always complicit with abuse. It comes from people who are whole and will call things out the way that they see it because that's the way it is. And the world needs whole people right now more than ever. Because if we continue to show up wounded and fragmented, we bleed all over each other, and you can't even tell where the problem is. You can't even tell that you're leaking energy. You can't even tell that people are a projection of something that has not healed inside of you. Now, I'm going to talk about this last thing, and I'm going to have to come back for a part two to finish this because I got to go. But the last part of this was accountability. That's one of the hardest things for a lot of people. Okay? This is how you know that's you. If being accountable feels impossible, it feels heavy, it feels like too much responsibility. If someone holding you responsible makes you feel like you're being attacked or persecuted, you're hiding something from yourself, not from them. You're hiding from yourself. Accountability feels like persecution when there's a part of you that already believes that you are fundamentally bad. So you can't handle nobody outside of you holding you accountable for something because you already feel fucked up. You already feel like I can't get my shit together. I can't do nothing right. I'm always wrong. I'm always fucking up. When you feel like that and you ain't working through those emotions, if somebody try to hold you accountable, even in a compassionate way, you're going to feel like they're attacking you. You're going to feel like they're blaming you for something that you didn't do because every correction feels like confirmation of the core belief that you are not good enough. But here's the truth. You're not bad. It's not that you're not good enough. You're just not integrated. Shadow work removes guilt and shame when it's done correctly, not because you become perfect, but because you realize that your imperfections do not make you unworthy. We all have them. You can be wrong and still be lovable. You can be a hot mess and still be worthy of compassion. You can have darkness and still be light. That's what integration feels like. It's not perfection. It's you giving yourself permission to be all of who you are and to not be triggered by those things. And when you learn this, manifestation intentionally will become easier. Now, I intentionally do not get on here and talk about all the things that I have manifested. Back when I first started my spiritual awakening journey and sharing it with everybody, for those of you who've been knowing me for the last 10, 15, 20 years, because that's how long I've been out here doing it, since 2006. But back when I first started, I would get so excited if I manifested a good parking spot, if I manifested some money out of nowhere, if I manifested my dream car, my dream home, my dream relationship, my dream vacation. Like that was my focus. And it was so big to me because it was something I didn't know that I could intentionally call these things into my reality. I've done all of those things. So I'm not posting pictures of my house. I'm not posting pictures of my vehicles. I'm not doing any of that anymore. right? But in the beginning, I was so excited to see that I could intentionally manifest something. I was posting and talking about it. And I was so excited to see that I could intentionally manifest something. I was posting and talking about it. But that's number one. Okay. So I want to thank y'all. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the shadow of the people pleaser because it's really, really interesting. And so many of us deal with that. So many of us don't like to talk about it. And let me tell you, that's one of the most painful shadows to have right now is to be a people pleaser because narcissists can find you like a needle in a haystack because you're like emitting this energy that I can be used up. And this live stream was not about blaming anybody, but helping us to see the ways that we could be a better version of ourselves by being accountable of our own darkness. So, yes, part two, just stay tuned. Come back and check it out. You know, if you're on my email list, I send out notifications. But stay tuned. I will do part two and talk about people pleasing. And I'm about to head up out of here. Thank you, every one of y'all who was like hitting the likes and the hearts and all of that. Thank you. I appreciate you. I really mean that. It's not easy doing this type of work. But when people reciprocate, it lets me know that I'm speaking in a way that is uplifting, might be exposing, and it might be uncomfortable, but it's actually going to give you the growth that you've been desiring.
Yeah. Higher, I take you higher. Higher. Yeah. Yeah. I got this sacred, that sacred fire. We break the matrix, we burning bright.